You are standing on a street corner in Lower Manhattan in 1923. The city smells like horse manure and gasoline and something frying in fat from the window above you. The L train overhead rattles the fillings in your teeth every 4 minutes. The tenement behind you houses 47 people across 6 floors and 1 toilet per landing. The street in front of you is wet from this morning's rain, and it reflects the drugstore sign across the road in wobbling orange letters, and it looks, in the right light, almost beautiful. You are 17 years old. Your father came from Palermo in 1901 and worked the docks until his back gave out. Your mother takes in laundry. You have 2 younger brothers and a sister, and the apartment is 3 rooms, and the arithmetic of the household requires that you contribute something that is not currently in the budget. The man leaning against the lamppost 20 feet away is not loitering. You have seen him there every morning for 6 weeks, and he is never loitering. He is working. His name is Sal, and he runs the numbers for this block and the 3 blocks east, and he makes in a week what your father made in a month on the docks before the back gave out. He has been watching you watch him for 6 weeks. Today he pushes off the lamppost and walks toward you. You are about to learn how the real city works. Rank 1. The street kid, the errand boy. Sal does not offer you anything dramatic. He offers you 75 cents to carry a package to an address 6 blocks north and not open it and not talk about it and be back here in 40 minutes. You are back in 32. Over the next 6 months, you carry packages, run number slips from the candy store to the counting room above the barber shop, stand on corners and watch for police and use a specific whistle when they appear. Carry messages to men you are not introduced to, and collect envelopes from businesses on a list you memorize and do not write down. You are never told what is in the packages. You are never told what the businesses are paying for. You are told when to show up, where to go, and what to say, and you do these things correctly and completely and without asking questions that have not been invited. This is the audition. Nobody calls it that. Everyone understands that it is. The men you work for are Sicilian and Neapolitan and Calabrese, and they have with them an entire civilization's worth of knowledge about how power actually operates versus how it claims to operate. They know that the official city, the police, the politicians, the judges, the newspapers, is not a system of governance. It is a set of relationships between people who have things to offer and people who need things. The currency is not only money, it is silence, loyalty, information, violence, and the management of all 4 simultaneously. You are 17, and you are learning this the only way it can be learned, by doing the small version of it on a street corner in the rain, while a man who has done the large version of it for 20 years watches from a doorway and decides whether you are worth investing in. You do not steal from the envelopes. You do not talk in the wrong places. You do not ask to be introduced to people above your current altitude. You show up when you are supposed to show up, and you are where you are supposed to be, and when something goes sideways, and things always go sideways eventually, you handle it quietly and report accurately, and do not embellish and do not minimize. At the end of 6 months, Sal takes you to a restaurant on Mulberry Street and introduces you to a man named Mr. Caruso and leaves you there. Mr. Caruso orders you a steak. He asks you 3 questions about your family. He watches you eat. You pass whatever the test is. You are in. Rank 2, the associate, the earner. You are not a member. You will never be a member in the formal sense because your mother's people are Irish, and the organization you are working for is Sicilian to its foundation, and membership, being made, requires Sicilian blood on both sides. This is the wall you will spend the next decade running alongside without ever going through. What you are is an associate, a connected guy, someone who works with the organization, earns with the organization, is protected by the organization's name when that protection is needed, and in exchange produces revenue and does what is asked of him and maintains the absolute discretion that is the one non-negotiable requirement of continued participation. It is 1924, and Prohibition is 3 years old, and it is the single greatest economic opportunity in American organized crime, and everyone in your world understands this and is moving as fast as the supply chain allows. Your operation is a bootlegging route. You coordinate the trucks that bring Canadian whiskey across the border through upstate New York, manage the warehouses where it is stored and cut and rebottled, and supply the speakeasies from the Bowery to the Upper West Side that can officially exist and are visited nightly by off-duty police officers, assistant district attorneys, newspaper editors, and the alderman who ran last year on a temperance platform. The hypocrisy is total. The hypocrisy is the business model. The law created a demand that it simultaneously made criminal to supply, which means the only people who can supply it are people who are already operating outside the law, which means the profit flows entirely to the people the law nominally trying to eliminate. You did not design this system. You simply understand it better than the people who did. You make more money than you have ever seen. You wear better suits than your father ever owned. You send your mother $50 a week and tell her it is from the trucking business, which is technically accurate. You eat in restaurants where the maitre d' knows your name. You date a girl from Brooklyn whose father is a fireman and does not ask where the money comes from because the money is sending her sister to secretarial school. You are also, at this level, learning to live with fear as a permanent background condition. Not the sharp fear of specific danger, but the low, chronic fear of a man who understands that the environment he operates in does not have reliable rules. A business dispute at this level does not go to a lawyer, it goes somewhere else. You have seen where it goes, twice in 3 years. Both times quickly, both times finally. You do not dwell on this. Dwelling on it is not productive, and productivity is the only thing standing between your current situation and a situation you cannot recover from. Rank 3, the soldier, the made man. 5 years in, you are 22 years old, and you have done enough and proven enough, and the specific question of your bloodline has been resolved by someone above your altitude in a way that is never explained to you, but whose resolution is communicated through your invitation to a ceremony in the back room of a restaurant on Elizabeth Street. The ceremony is called being made, being straightened out, getting your button. The room is small, and it smells of garlic and cigarette smoke, and something underneath both of those things that is the smell of absolute seriousness. There are 7 men present. You know 4 of them. The other 3 you have seen but never been introduced to, and their presence here tells you something about the altitude of what is happening. The boss of the family, a compact, gray-haired man named Don Aiello, who you have met twice in your life, and who has clearly been watching you for 5 years without you seeing him do it, sits at the head of the table. You sit across from him. Your trigger finger is pricked with a pin, and a drop of blood falls on a small paper image of a saint, and the paper is burned in your cupped hands, and while it burns, Don Aiello tells you what you are now and what it requires. Omerta, the code of silence. You will not speak of this world to outsiders. You will not speak to law enforcement under any circumstances. If you are arrested, you will retain a lawyer and say nothing, and the organization will provide the lawyer and provide for your family while you are inside, and your rank will be waiting for you when you return. This is the covenant, and it runs in both directions. You give silence and loyalty. You receive protection and belonging, and the most powerful professional network in the city. You are a soldier now, a made man, the lowest rank in the formal hierarchy, but a rank that carries genuine weight. No one touches you without authorization. If someone puts a hand on you, the organizational response is not personal, it is institutional. Your crew has 8 men. You run 3 operations, a numbers bank covering 2 neighborhoods in East Harlem, a loan sharking book, and the protection route for a dozen businesses from a restaurant row in Little Italy to a wholesale butcher in the Bronx. You clear $400 a week for yourself after tribute. You are 22 years old, and you are wealthy by any standard your neighborhood has ever produced. The weight of what you have just become settles over the following weeks, rather than all at once. You are not a criminal who does criminal things when opportunities arise. You are a member of a permanent institution with a code and a structure and obligations that run in all directions simultaneously. The organization owns a piece of everything you earn and a piece of everything you are. This is not a complaint. This is the nature of belonging to something that is larger than yourself and more durable. You understand this now. You accepted it in that back room on Elizabeth Street with burning paper in your hands. You would make the same choice again. Rank 4, the caporegime, the captain. 12 years. You are a caporegime now, a captain, a crew boss running 23 soldiers and associates across operations that stretch from the waterfront to the garment district and generate enough weekly revenue that you think about it in terms of annual figures rather than weekly envelopes. The Volstead Act is still the law, but its enforcement has become purely theatrical. The politicians need the bootleggers' money too badly to enforce it against them, and the bootleggers need the politicians too badly to embarrass them by being too visible about it. The whole system has reached a stable equilibrium of mutual corruption that functions better than any legal market would, because each participant has a strong personal incentive to ensure it continues operating. Your job at this level is management, pure organizational management, personnel decisions, revenue allocation, conflict resolution, territory negotiation, and the maintenance of the tribute structure that moves money up the chain and keeps the men below you productive and loyal. You run a weekly meeting in the back of a social club on Pleasant Avenue. Your soldiers sit around a table that also has food on it, because a meeting with food is less obviously a meeting, and because men who eat together have a different quality of relationship than men who simply sit and talk. You receive reports, you make decisions, you allocate resources, you resolve the disputes your soldiers cannot resolve among themselves, and escalate to the underboss the disputes that exceed your authority. The political work surprises people who have not done it. You spend as much time managing the perceptions of the men above you as managing the operations of the men below you. The organization is a political environment as much as an economic one. Men at your level compete for the attention and confidence of the boss. A capo who produces excellent revenue but fails to manage his organizational relationships will be outmaneuvered by a capo who produces merely good revenue but is brilliant at the politics. You have seen this happen. You have occasionally been the person who made it happen. Your wife knows the shape of what you do. Your children go to Catholic school and have a house in Flushing with a yard. You coach Little League on Saturday mornings. You go to Mass. You make confession with a priest who has been hearing confessions from men like you for 20 years and has developed a theology of moral complexity that serves everyone well. The priest gives you 10 Hail Marys. You say them. You mean them. You go back to work.
Rank 5. The Consigliere, the advisor. There is a rank outside the line of operational authority that is, in some ways, more powerful than all the ranks within it. The Consigliere. You do not command men. You do not run operations. You do not collect tribute or manage territory or resolve disputes through force. What you do is think and advise and hold the institutional memory of the family across decades, and tell the boss the truth when everyone else around him has calculated that telling him something comfortable is safer. The last function is the most important and the rarest. A boss who cannot hear bad news will eventually act on bad information, and the consequences will be severe. The consigliere's job is to be the one person in the room whose position is secure enough that honesty is not a professional risk. You have been with this family for 30 years. You were a soldier under Don Aiello's predecessor. You were a capo under Don Aiello himself. You know where every body is buried in the metaphorical sense, and in several cases the literal one. And this knowledge is your security and your authority simultaneously. The year is 1929, and the world outside your window is about to change in ways that most people have not begun to calculate. The stock market has been ascending on a structure of leverage and fantasy that you recognized as unsustainable 2 years ago, because you have been in the business of extending credit to people who cannot pay it back for your entire career. And you know exactly what the face of a borrower looks like when the collateral is not real. When the market breaks in October, you will tell the boss 2 things: that the recession will last longer than the newspapers are predicting, and that the window to consolidate before the other families do the same is 90 days at most. He will listen. He will act. 3 months later, the family's position will be stronger than it was before the crash, while 2 competing families are in the middle of succession crises generated by the financial pressure. Your value to the family is the specific thing that cannot be bought, stolen, or replicated. It can only be grown, and it takes 30 years to grow it, and when it is gone, it will take another 30 years to replace it. The boss knows this. That is why you are still here. Rank 6. The boss. The Don. You did not ask for this. You are not being falsely modest when you say that. You watched Don Aiello for 15 years, and you understood that the position carried a specific and non-transferable burden that the men below him could observe but not fully calculate. The visibility, the finality of every decision, the fact that when something goes wrong at any level of the organization, it eventually arrives at your table, because there is no table above yours. Don Aiello died in his bed in 1928 at the age of 71. He had never been convicted of anything. He had never been indicted for anything. He had never given a statement to law enforcement of any kind in 50 years of operating at the highest level of organized crime in the most aggressive law enforcement environment in the world. He died surrounded by his grandchildren in a house in Bay Ridge with a garden his wife had maintained for 30 years and a priest who had been his confessor for 40. You intend to replicate this outcome. Every decision you make is made in light of it. The commission is new. Luciano's architecture, the council of bosses, the agreement that eliminates the Mustache Pete power structure and makes the families a cooperative federation rather than a set of competing fiefdoms, is the most significant organizational development in your world since Prohibition. You were in the room when it was agreed to. You supported it because you understood what Luciano understood. The single greatest threat to this enterprise is not law enforcement, it is internal warfare. The Castellamares War cost the families more than any federal investigation ever had. The commission ended that. You hold a seat at the commission table. You speak when you have something worth saying, and you listen when other men speak, and you have developed the specific quality of patience that makes other men wait for your opinion, because they have learned that your silence means you are thinking rather than that you have nothing to say. Your son does not know specifically what you do. He is at Fordham studying law. He will be a legitimate lawyer in a legitimate firm, and he will have your name and your connections and none of your exposure. The generation after yours will be clean. You are the last of the water that carries the mud. You sit in your garden in Bay Ridge on a Sunday afternoon in 1931. Your wife is inside cooking. Your grandchildren will be here in an hour. The tomatoes are coming in. The phone rings in the house. You do not move.
Whatever it is will wait until Monday, or your underboss will handle it. You give the tomatoes another 30 seconds. They are very good tomatoes. You go inside. You are back on that street corner in Lower Manhattan. The L train rattles overhead. The drugstore sign reflects in the wet street. Sal is leaning against the lamppost. You are 17 years old, and the man is walking toward you, and you have a choice that is not really a choice, because the door Sal is about to open is the only door on this block that leads to anywhere you recognize as somewhere worth going. You do not know that in 50 years, the organization you are about to enter will be the subject of Senate investigations, Hollywood films, and journalism prizes, and academic papers. You know that your father's back gave out on the docks, and your mother takes in laundry, and there are 3 rooms for 7 people, and Sal makes in a week what your father made in a month. Sal stops in front of you. He looks at you for a long moment. "You want to work?" he says. The L train rattles. The sign reflects in the wet street. "Yeah," you say. "I want to work."